Welcome. I am giving this speech on behalf of the Dean of the School of Environmental Studies, who is not able to join us today. The School of Environmental Studies is a school that has 4 departments. The departments are Department of Environmental Biology and Health, which is the hosting department for planetary health. We have Environmental Earth Sciences. We have Environmental Monitoring, Planning, and Management. And finally, we have the Department of Applied Environmental Social Sciences. From what we have already had, we know that environmental science is an interdisciplinary academic field that integrates physical, biological, and information sciences. And this helps to study the environment and to try and also get solutions of environmental problems. As the first speaker said, we have interrelation between humans and the environment, and it is important that we do not affect the environment in a manner that it will affect our coexistence. Now, environmental science emerged from the fields of natural history and medicine. During the Enlightenment, today it provides an integrated quantitative and interdisciplinary approach to the study of environmental systems. We have the academic field, which brings this science to class. We take into consideration the physical, biological, chemical sciences to the study of the environment and to discover solutions to environmental problems. For us, this will involve probably doing some laboratory analysis or several other forms of research that will try to see how we can be able to conserve our environment. We also have geography, zoology, physics, ecology, and oceanology, and geology, all of them trying to work together to see how we can solve these problems. We have therefore an intersection in environmental science with the planetary health. We have the social sciences where we try to understand human interactions with the environment. Remember, one of our departments is applied environmental social sciences. So they mainly try to see how we can be able to interact, what the interaction of human and the environment is resulting in terms of environmental degradation. We also have environmental engineering. Here we have analysis and deduction of environmental problems with the environment and the effect of man-made programs on the environment. It also tries to find lasting solutions that we can use to help protect and preserve the environment. We know that we have anthropogenic activities that result in air pollution, water, and land pollution, which, if not conserved there, it will affect the environment. Environmental science is also another area that interacts with the environment, where we are concerned with climate change, biodiversity, natural resources, energy, pollution, and other environmental issues. So the departments that we have in the School of Environmental Studies all have an integration with planetary health, and that is why we have embraced planetary health in the school so that we are able to work together. As we progress with the seminar series, We also hope that a time will come when we can integrate environmental planetary health in our curriculum. So I wish to thank you and wish you a good time as you enjoy this session and the upcoming sessions. Please feel welcome to the seminar series. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Khazenzi, and I welcome Melvin to proceed.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khazenzi, for your introduction and also for the presentation so far. So we have only a question for you.
In Eastern Africa. So green space is actually important, as we've seen. They are important resources, environmental resources in urban settings. At the moment, we have observed a decline, or statistics show a decline in green spaces in urban centers or urban environments in Africa. And the reason is very obvious. There's a lot of degradation of urban environment. So in the process, you actually end up losing those spaces. Now, so green, what does green really mean? Green is associated with vegetative matter. And that green vegetative matter is dominated by green plants. And we have the main or the dominant green plants, herbs, including foxglove shrubs and also trees in an area. So those ones constitute the green vegetative matter. Now, green plants are usually terrestrial, those growing on land. You also have some in wetlands, and also you have green plants in water. So what is a green space? Green space is just land. It's a piece of land that is covered by vegetative material, partially or completely. Green vegetative material, partially or completely. How about the urban environment? What is it? Okay, it comprises of the central business district, which is a core area where all the business is transacted in an urban center. That's a city or town, and also the surrounding environments, which are composed of the peri-urban and the suburbs. Now, the urban environment is not the best environment you would imagine biodiversity should occupy. Why? Because it's heavily disturbed by humans because of their socio-economic activities. In urban environments, you have heat islands, and biodiversity, like for example, plants biodiversity is normally suppressed at a particular successional stage, not allowed to progress further or into other advanced stages. You have pollution, modified environment, and other anthropogenic disturbances. So in short, let's all agree, and I would emphasize this, that the urban environment is harsh to biodiversity. Now, luckily, urban biodiversity, if you have urban biodiversity, which is a key component of ecosystems, in your city, in your town, okay, in the urban environment where you live, you will be able to enjoy ecosystem services which are similar to those ones provided by natural ecosystems. So in short, The urban ecosystems, of course, composed of urban biodiversity, are very good for us who are city dwellers or urban residents. So the closer you have urban biodiversity to you in a city or in town or in the urban environment generally, then the better. So you actually see a big city surrounded, or having green spaces which have biodiversity, then that's actually a good city to live in. Now, what is urban biodiversity, or what is it made up of? You have two, basic components of urban biodiversity. You have indigenous species, which are actually remnants. Remnants, why? Because they could actually have originally existed in the area and form parts of the natural environments in a city before development took place. So whatever is left is normally called remnants. So you have remnant species of flora and fauna. And these ones are those which, are able to ecologically adapt. So ecologically, adaptation is very important to changing environments. Whatever kind of environment, probably which has been created by harsh environmental conditions, or even environment created by, changes in climate. Like most of the environments now, in some areas, it's no longer the way it used to be. It's a bit harsh because of global warming. So remnant indigenous species of flora and fauna form urban biodiversity. Also, you have alien species, foreign species, and invasive species of flora and fauna also. Now, these are species which take advantage of ecological niches which have been left in town by species which could not ecologically adapt to the harsh environmental conditions. So those two are key, the remnant indigenous species and the alien and invasive species of flora and fauna. So green spaces provide critical habitats. Now, I'll repeat critical because if those spaces are not there, the green species, then you'll not have any urban biodiversity, okay? You'll not have any urban biodiversity. And we know urban biodiversity, as I said earlier, is critical for formation of urban ecosystems, which now provide the ecological services which we need for our healthy lives, okay? So some of the habitats provide, space for pioneer plant species to establish themselves. Pioneer plant species are those ones which eventually will lead to formation of ecosystems. And then the habitats, again, are important as refugee habitats. That means they provide refuge for indigenous species, okay? Those ones which, of course, were left behind or are able to adapt to the harsh environmental conditions in the urban environments. They will seek refuge in these green spaces. Therefore, green spaces they form the foundation for establishment of urban ecosystems. Now, the urban ecosystems are key. As I said earlier when I introduced the lecture, they're the ones which are in our vicinity. So we'll get the services we want for our health, our healthy life, directly from them, okay? So if they are near us, that's even better. They'll give us, the ecological services we require, that's provisioning services, regulatory, supporting, and and the cultural services, which even natural ecosystems found elsewhere, far away from cities, provide. Now, for East Africa, we have a few examples of green spaces, and this is just general. So I've not been specific because they are wide. So I'm just being very general as to what you'd find as green spaces in East Africa. So playgrounds, the golf clubs and other sports clubs, football fields and other fields for that matter, are a good example of green spaces. You also have the lawns, the grass lawns, urban lawns. You find them outside offices. You find them in, outside, in institutions, schools, and others, universities, colleges. You'll find these lawns. You have urban parks, gardens, cemeteries, urban woodlots, like that one in the picture. That's an urban woodlot on the right. You also have dump sites, whether abandoned or active, and urban wetland vegetation on the left. So when you talk about playgrounds, as green spaces, they are valuable in many ways. Okay, those playgrounds are good for children's fitness, but also our fitness. We go running around in these green spaces in the city. Okay, so for good health, for our good health and physiology, we need them. We need the green spaces. So those are some of the benefits. Also for relaxation, for mental health, we need the parks, like this park here. And those parks are part of the green spaces, especially now where we have a mental health crisis in East Africa and Africa at large and many other parts of the world. We actually need to relax. And where do we relax? In a city, you go to a park. For job purposes, when you lose your job, the best place to go is to go and relax at the park, of course, as you figure out the next strategy for survival. Now, why are we losing our spaces? Why are we losing our green spaces? Why are they very few? And we said there's a general decline in green spaces over time in Africa and East Africa, especially. And it's because of, the way we are urbanizing very quickly. So most of the green spaces are converted to other land uses. You've seen wetland reclamation, for example, in our urban environments, so that they are reclaimed for purposes maybe of constructing shopping malls and other institutional buildings. There's also increased poverty. There's a limited resource base for green space, and absence of prioritization of creation of green spaces among our local municipality and town planners, for example. They do not prioritize creation of green spaces. Instead, you'll actually see more developments in terms of infrastructure, but not necessarily green infrastructure, but other forms of infrastructure. And then, of course, local people, lack of cooperation among them, or poor attitudes towards green spaces. And of course, there's political instability. There are many other reasons for this, but these are the main ones. Now, urban spaces and urban green spaces. What do they do? Provide, as I said earlier, foundation for development of urban systems. And in the process, the urban ecosystems provide vital services for our well-being as urban residents. So these are some of the conclusions which I have. Creation of green spaces should be prioritized. As we said, there's lack of prioritization of creation of these green spaces, especially by our municipals and which plan for our urban areas or cities, for that matter. Now, conservation of green spaces should be done collectively, okay, because there are various or multiple stakeholders involved in ensuring that there's successful conservation of green spaces. So the national government has been involved, local governments, local municipalities, and also the residents. Youth and local residents are encouraged to develop innovative ways of creating green spaces. Thanks so much for listening. And if there are any questions, I would be glad to attend to them. Thanks.
Our presentation. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the workshop. I want to give my presentation because I'm not available physically to be able to make it. So I hope that the insights that I'm going to share regarding the topic that I was given, that they are going to find them, you're going to find them interesting, and that they'll be able to generate even more discussions. So my topic was on uncertainties and complexities in biodiversity and human health. I'm sure already speakers before me have already been able to highlight the relationships that exist between biodiversity and human health. Mine is just to come in and try to give insights from my own perspectives and from the research that has been undertaken in many different parts of the world on what some of the complexities may be. Just as an introduction, we find that now a lot of green spaces are being advocated for, even in the urban areas. We find that green building has taken root, and part of it advocates for having green spaces, even within residential areas. You go to many big cities in the world, even those that a lot of people are founding, you'll find a lot of green spaces. Why? Because it has been seen to be very good for mental health. And we know that mental health is related with a lot of other benefits. It is said that such green spaces mitigate allergies. And you find that even people who have been sick for a while, when they're recuperating, green spaces assist them a lot in the recuperation process. And this, of course, is part of biodiversity. And there are many different aspects of biodiversity, not only the green spaces. But I chose that as an example of something that people do subconsciously without realizing that actually that is part of biodiversity. and it could be impacting very positively on human health. So I just chose that as an example. But there are many, many different ways in which biodiversity impacts on ecosystem services, and in turn, how they may enhance human health. We know that in order for life to thrive on Earth, we need air, we need water, we need food, and all those are components of the biodiversity. So I don't want to dwell on that. I just want to go straight away into the uncertainties. So what brings the uncertainty? We find that because of deforestation and other land use changes that are occurring, biodiversity is rapidly declining. And definitely, this is affecting ecosystem services. It's not only happening in Africa, it is happening elsewhere, worldwide. So what is going to be the long-term impact on human health? Because different ecosystems are declining at different rates, we are not sure about the interrelatedness of the different ecosystems. So which of these ecosystem services is going to be impacted most? It is not very clear. And it varies from place to place. And it depends on the societal needs. It depends on the value system in a particular society and what that particular society are requiring from the ecosystem in that particular geographical area. So this is not very clear-cut. You cannot say that the impact is going to be uniform across the board. So which ecosystem services will be impacted most and in which geographical areas? Sometimes that may not be very clear. And in relation to that then, which aspects of health will be impacted? Sometimes it may be easier to model in the short term, but in the long run, because things are not held constant, and there are so many, there's a lot of interrelated between different ecosystems and within different ecosystem services. So it becomes very difficult, even when modeling is being done, to make certain assumptions. Secondly, how and when is the maintenance of biodiversity key to sustaining the flow of services to communities? That is an important aspect that needs to be thought about. Because how can biodiversity be maintained if it is to continue, sustaining the flow of services to communities? How is it not to be achieved? And when? Because sometimes natural events cannot be controlled. Natural events will not be foretold. So when such occur, then it becomes difficult to maintain a balanced state in the ecosystem so as to maintain the biodiversity. What about land use changes? In Kenya, we are seeing a lot of conversion of agricultural land to real estate. How is that impacting on the ecosystem, for example? How is it impacting on the ecosystem services? we are seeing a lot of urbanization, and with time, we are going to be more and more urban. How is that going to affect biodiversity and eventually health? And you cannot prevent change. This change is occurring very fast in an unplanned manner. So eventually, how is it going to impact health through the ecosystem services that are being affected? How is it going to impact water quality? For example, when wetlands are being cleared, such that they are converted either to agricultural land or converted even to real estate. So that is something that we need to think about as we try to bring about these interrelationships. What about climate change? COP26 has just come to an end, and a lot of things have not been agreed. So climate change is going to continue being an issue for a long time. Yes, there's a lot of modeling that has been taken, a lot of research has been undertaken. But the future scenarios of climate change, how are they likely to influence biodiversity? And even in the different agroecological systems, and what repercussions are we likely to see? And especially when it comes to plant and animal pests and diseases, given rainfall variability and temperature variability. And this definitely are likely to have an impact on food security. What about emerging pests and diseases in areas that did not have certain pests or diseases? Now we are seeing them emerge. And even going further, it could even be re-emerging pests and diseases. So how are these going, with time? What is the interrelationship? Something else, we need to think about the biogeochemical processes. When you look at the different cycles, for example, the nitrogen cycle, the carbon cycle, the water cycle, we find that they are interrelated. They affect biodiversity and vice versa. With all those changes that have been explained, biodiversity is interfered with. How, in turn, does it alter the biogeochemical processes? And in turn, what are the repercussions? Because already we are seeing, because of the change and the alteration in the carbon cycle, we are seeing climate change occurring. So what are we likely to see when it comes to the nitrogen cycle? What are we likely to see when it comes to the water cycle and all those other biogeochemical processes? And when these interact, how are they likely to affect ecosystem services? And eventually, how will it affect humanity? So this, you cannot be certain. You cannot be certain about this. And yet it is something that is bound to occur. So it is important that we are ready to see how to handle this. Because if the biogeochemical processes are interfered with, there could be excesses of some of the elements in certain environments, and it could lead to negative impacts. There may be deficiency of some of these elements in certain components of the environment, and this deficiencies could impact life negatively. So it is important that we consider all this. We know that a single service, a single ecosystem service, is the result of multiple ecosystem actions. So, if there is biodiversity change, how is it going to affect the synergies and the trade-offs among these services? That may be difficult to procure because things are not held constant. So, modeling and predictions may be done, but in real life scenario, this could be different because there are synergies that may not be clear right now. There are trade-offs that may not be very clear right now. So in the process, you may find that you may not be able to predict adequately how health may be impacted by biodiversity change. There are different contexts under which the world operates. These are region-specific, they are culture-specific, and many other factors that may influence these links and this causal chain. So, what is the causal chain of links between biodiversity chain, ecosystem services, and disease? For example, if the temperature change would be about 2 degrees centigrade, what about with land use change? What is the likely scenario? Land use change from agricultural to real estate, for example, or from forests to agricultural land, riparian land, wetlands being converted to agricultural lands. There are all these scenarios because the population is increasing, and yet land mass has not changed. So we cannot say that even if we try to keep things constant, this will hold. So that is something that we really need to think about. So as I end my presentation, I just want to give some insights on the way forward. Because there is data available, a lot of experiments have been done, a lot of observations have been done. There is a lot of data on these interrelationships. So maybe what is required, even as research is ongoing, is a meta-analysis using data that is available. And this will help in several ways. It will help in identifying knowledge gaps. It will help in distinguishing specific health effects that are sensitive to changes in the ecosystem services. Because some of the health effects could be more sensitive than others. There are those that may need more attention. And this will result maybe even in policy changes, or it could even require global concerted effort. These are aspects that may be discovered as knowledge gaps are addressed more and more. This could also reveal the relative importance of It could reveal the relative importance of different trends in sustaining ecosystem services derived from the biodiversity. Because which drivers, most affect ecosystem services? Because there are different factors all working together. So which of these could be most important in its impact? So this will also help establish biodiversity's influence on multiple ecosystem services, given that a single service is often a composite of several ecosystem functions. So this is not, the list is not comprehensive, but these are some of my thoughts on what can be. Okay? Because as we move on, we cannot afford to acknowledge that this requires a multidisciplinary approach so that we can be able to come up with answers, so that we can be able to take advantage of knowledge that has been created in this discipline, and to combine knowledge also from various disciplines in order to be able to solve some of the questions that have been able to pose. So I hope that I've been able to, succeed in creating new, maybe questions that you can continue thinking about, and also maybe generate a discussion going forward, especially when it comes to planetary health, on what can be done to enhance this aspect. And as researchers, as scholars of planetary health, what is it that we can do better? What is it that we can take advantage so that we can be able to create a better one and to be able to help people to appreciate the importance of ensuring that we are more balanced when it comes to the issues of environment and health. Thank you very much.